My name is Asnar and I'm a film critic, and today in Once Upon a Time in the Movies we are going to talk about the movie The Roses and Caught Stealing, the new movie from Darren Aronofsky that came out this week. And this week I want to try something new, so I will be having a script here on my computer. So we will start with The Roses, which is a remake of a movie, or it is a new adaptation of a novel named The War of the Roses. I haven't seen this original film, so I am just going to talk about this new one. The first thing about it is that it is really appealing about this movie is the two protagonists, Benedict Cumberbatch and Olivia Colman, are two great actors that are carrying this, and the director is Jay Roach, which you may recognize his name for the Meet the Parents and Meet the Fuckers, which are two of the most hilarious family comedies of the early 2000s, and now it comes with another movie, and it is pretty great, I will say. Well, let's first start talking about the genre and the style of the movie. It is a comedy. It is a family comedy. I would say it's kind of a error or mistake comedy. Like the characters make errors that cause them for this situation to be a snowballing to a bigger one into its climax. And I will say that I was gratefully after seeing the movie, or while I was watching the movie, because from the trailers I was expecting a movie that was going to be about these two characters pushing each other to leave each other, and actually it doesn't. Actually, it is quite the opposite. The fights and the situations come from the characters trying to save their marriage, trying to make the peace with each other, and it makes it quite, I don't know if more deep or original, but it does make it feel something fresh in comparison to how you would expect a comedy of this kind to work out. Also, at the beginning, it is pretty effective. It starts with a scene of the two main characters at a therapist visit where they are trying to solve their issues, and the therapist tells them that it is not possible. They insult each other in very creative ways, and this is a great setup for the type of humor, the unhinged personality, and the all over the top that this thing is going to get. And then we go back in time to the first time these partners meet, the Olivia Colman as a chef, frustrated, and Benedict Cumberbatch as an architect, also frustrated, that they meet in a restaurant, and they decide to have sex and move with each other to the United States. They both are British, to try to make their dreams come true, and it is an amazing scene because it is so different from anything we have seen. The way they relate to each other is so full of sarcasm, irony, and they are so direct that it makes this scene works, but also makes the rest of the scenes play out like real extensions of these characters, not just like what these characters need to act to in order for the plot or the events of the movie to happen. It's not like Olivia Colman suddenly gets mad and starts saying things in a very proper manner for her character, but since the beginning she's established as this character who always thinks what she always says what she thinks, and also is really ironic and sarcastic, and it's pretty funny. Also, on regards to the image or the visual aspect, the movie, it's really generic. I mean, it works, you understand what is happening, the camera is well placed, but there's nothing more to it. It just works, and sometimes it has a cinematic look, other times it feels more like a social media part, but at the end it works for what the movie needs it to be. On the sound, the sound design, it is okay, it works, it performs well, and there's actually this running gag that it's repeated on the credits, so this sound running gag that repeats on the credits, and it's a great touch at the end, but nothing more than that on that regard. The montage is very generic and mostly descriptive. Like, the montage is just there trying to pose as invisible. Like the movie doesn't want you to notice what he's doing, doesn't that how it is constructing the scenes. The movie doesn't want you to be confused for a moment about, oh, where are we now? So the movie always starts with a wide shot of the place that we are, of the characters that are there, and what are the characters doing, instead of approaching a more analytical montage where you show a detail, we are wondering what this detail is about, and then growing out of that detail to the more general or to the broader scene. Here it's the opposite. What the movie presents is what you get, and it always starts from that. Also, in regarding to the drama, the scenes, and the characters, firstly, these two actors, Olivia Colman is such an amazing actor. Benedict Cumberbatch also does a very good job, so they can carry each. When they are together, they break the scene, but when there's only one of them, easily in any of them can carry that scenes. And also other characters as Andy Samberg are really funny and really fun to watch. Also, during all the movie, there's a conflict that all the time seems to go getting bigger, and every scene has a conflict. Every scene has the characters fighting or trying to hide they are fighting, or has a new way to present the conflict that they are having, and it is always getting bigger. It is so in that regard, it is becoming a more intense and higher stakes at every time. Also, it explores some interesting themes about the characters. For example, Benedict Cumberbatch's character gets fired, and so he starts feeling less manly. And in order for him to cope with it, he starts training the children of the family to become athletes and get all their dreams come true, and they become athletes and top of the school, and it's such a ridiculous and over the top manner. And on the other side, the woman Olivia Colman, it's like this prototype of this woman who manages to work and it's pretty successful and everything, but it explores how this affects her as a mother and how she feels like that the kids were taken away from her at a very young age. They go to college with a scholarship at 13 years old, and so. And also, just Olivia Colman is such a great actress, and every scene she's in, it smashes, and she's like having so much fun that it is contagious. But what this movie most shines about in this regard is that, thanks to the movie actually showing these aspects, the emasculated man and the workaholic woman who feels like failed as a mother, this causes or this helps. This makes the movie feel not afraid of showing the dark side or showing this not stereotypical or this more nuances that you can find in the gender roles and these new ideas of how a family can be composed and what are the roles of each member of the family. And that makes it, again, something fresh to see. On regard of the plot and the storytelling, how this story and the events develop, it is it works well. It is pretty simple. Actually, it's like the movie, but at the same time, it's effective. It's like the scenes are always towards the same, these characters fighting and trying to keep up together, but every time the way they try to keep up together gets more hard and the stakes gets bigger, because at the end, they do want to break up with each other and divorce, but they are fighting over the house. So what they start doing is that they start plotting more unhinged and more extreme ways to manage to get the other one to sign the paperwork, and it is and it rises all the way to life-threatening situations, which is, it doesn't stop being funny, but like the stakes at the beginning are just saying hurtful things to each other, and at the end they are threatening each other's lives. So it works so well in that regard. And also all the elements that the movie presents come back. For example, at one moment they buy a table which has come from a Spanish Inquisition, and it has a dagger in it, and at the end one character decides to use that dagger. And the beginning one, the American friends give them guns because that's what American does, and at the end they use the gun, and like every little detail. For example, there also appears a character who is like who likes want to have sex with Benedict Cumberbatch, and the movie makes this recurring joke that at the end manages to get to an emotional conclusion when it explains that that yes, maybe marriage is not this thing eternal or always beautiful, but there is something good in it. And in that regard, it is really interesting the ideology that the movie presents, because at the end the movie is about, or what it tells you is that you are not that having a partner, that living with a partner or being in a relationship or in marriage is not waking up to be happy every day. It's work. It's an experience that you need to be constructing and working towards it every day, and it's not going to be easy. It's actually going to be something hard, and at the end, I believe this is something much real, or maybe where the movie doesn't tells you that there is this thing as true love, but. There is not such thing as true love, but it manages to find value in marriage. I mean, there is this character who wants to have sex with other people, but she acknowledges that she wants to be all her life with this partner and with the one she married, and it is like this really interesting thing where. Firstly, it's a very a contemporary idea. This idea of separating sex from marriage and from platonic care, and I believe that it makes and manages to get the idea of a marriage, what implies to be marriage, what is at stake in marriage, what are the benefits of marriage, and manages to put them on a modern and contemporary perspective. And at the ending is so over the top. There comes spoilers. The end is real curious because you don't see it. At the end, the house where the two main characters are gets full of gas and it explodes. It doesn't explode. It gets full of gas, and the character has to get the chimney on to its artificial intelligence, and it is. It is insinuated that they exploded and they died, but they died having resolved their issues and having talked their feelings and having found a new value in the marriage. So even I think it's very smart for the movie to cut before that, because it leaves you with a joke, with a unhinged scene that you are like, fuck, this really happened. But at the same time, it leaves you with a closed loop. Everything that was presented is closed because at the end, what was important was not what the characters done. It was what the characters managed to do. And at this point, they have already fixed their marriage and found something to look for in their marriage. And so if they live, they die, they explode, whatever, it doesn't matter, because at the end, the characters already fulfilled their act. At the beginning, they were in love, then they get fighting, they start hitting each other, and they found that they don't really felt that way for each other. They were just having a rough bump taken too far, but that there is still some value on each other and they still appreciate each other. And it's at that moment that the movie closes, and the fact that they explode it could be interpreted in many ways. I believe that one could be that sometimes you are so destructive with each other that there is no way of saving it. But I actually believe it takes a more light-hearted approach. I mean, by the fact of not showing the explosion nor hitting it nor anything, the movie just cuts to the credits. It manages to maintain its lightheartedness, and I feel it more like a joke. Like, we have built all over and built so high, and there's nothing higher than exploding the house, which was the source of the controversies for over half of the movie. And so in that regard, I believe that it is most a joke and a very smart one, because I I love dark humor, and if we have seen the house exploding, it will have been funny because of the construction. But I understand that that's not the tone the movie is going, so by cutting it, it manages to keep it funny even to more casual audiences or people who doesn't like that much the dark humor. And that it's another very interesting thing about this movie, that it is, or about other movies or in general, that when you don't show something, it is harder to take it serious, and so you can make jokes and make it feel lighthearted about it, and this is a great example of it. And so in conclusion, it is a funny movie. It is a complete and enjoyable experience in the theater. It has very good actors, very solid performances, but Olivia Colman, of course, she steals the show, and by not even trying it. The movie manages to shine by its characters' complexity, the ideological nuances, and contemporary approach to marriage. And in comparison with other movies in the same genre or in the same kind of movies, it presents a less stereotypical way, or a less stereotypical role gender. So in that regard, the movie ends up earning a place to exist in the genre, to be something that it proposes something in the genre more than being another 2-hour movie just to consume while you are watching Netflix or while you are washing dishes and you just put away. No, it earns its right to be a movie with something to say on its own. And so it was a great experience, highly recommended. The other movie I saw this week was Caught Stealing by Darren Aronofsky. Well, it is directed by Darren Aronofsky. It is also based on a novel, and actually here the writer is the novelist. And it is, I believe it is a pretty awesome movie. Firstly, I don't know if you... Well, first of all, it is a new movie from Darren Aronofsky, who you may know from things like Pi, The Wrestler with Mikey Rourke, Black Swan Mother with Jennifer Lawrence and Javier Bardem, Noah, it's also a great movie of his, and his last film, The Whale, which was in the Oscars and even won an Academy Award. I believe it won multiple, but it won Brendan Fraser's one Oscar, which is an amazing movie, highly recommended. But I believe that what's more interesting is that if you start looking at these movies, all of these movies are very violent psychological films. These all are movies about characters going to the limit of their psyche and getting break, and this works a lot because they are hard movies to watch. Also Requiem for a Dream with Jared Leto, and sorry I missed that, but here it is the first one in which the physical violence, it's equivalent or it's as explicit as the psychological violence that there's still, but not in that big of an amount of other movies. But here it also appears, and now it is reflected to the external of the characters, and it makes it I wouldn't say it makes it something better or worse, but it does makes it something different and fresh in the filmography of Darren Aronofsky. Also, the genre and style of the movie, it's quite hard to define. It is a drama because it is based on the relationships of the main character, but it is also a crime movie, an action movie. It has a comedy tone. It is quite funny, and it's sometimes like a dark humor, lightheartedness, and there is full of action, but the crime aspect is very present, and everything is turned around criminal underworld of New York. And so it becomes it is, I like the way to describe it as a punk, violent, edgy, and explicit movie. It is so counterculture. It doesn't shy. It's a way of showing visceral and impactful images at the same time that it tries to be edgy or tries to be dark in the way it presents jokes or whatever. And it is quite unexpected that I believe that this is mainly from how interested is Darren Aronofsky in these subjects, that the movie takes itself really serious in the character drama and the characterizations, while not forgetting to be funny. It is always funny, but the characterization moments are really deep, are really explicit, and are really powerful. And this is something that you usually don't see on dark comedies. For example, I think of funny criminal movies. The first thing that pops to my mind is Tarantino, where they are funny, there is some characterization and dynamics, and it is pretty enjoyable, but they don't do or those movies don't pretend to have don't pretend for you as the audience to watch it and feel bad for the characters. It expects you more to laugh of these complex, broken, and mostly pathetic characters. And here, Aronofsky goes the other way. Aronofsky knows when the scenes are important to the character and are about humanity, and he takes serious that scenes, and it manages to keep the seriousness and the most impactful moments impactful in a human and dramatic way, instead of through a comedical and farcic way. And I'm not saying that this is better or worse. I'm just saying that this manages to keep it in a different way and differentiates itself from other comedy or dark comedy crime movies. Also, if this movie is Austin Butler, who already won an Oscar, he's a great actor, and it's also Zoe Kravitz, Regina King, Vincent D'Onofrio appears here as a Jewish thug. Bad Bunny has a minor role here that does really well, actually. Matt Smith makes a secondary character that it's amazing. It is just an amazing movie. On regards to its cast, but if you don't know what it is about Austin Butler. That's what I was with this previous point. It is about Austin Butler being this failed baseball player, which was going to play in the big leagues of baseball, but got his knee broken in an accident and wasn't able to play anymore. So now it is just a bartender in a bar in New York, and drives his life like that until one day it gets in the middle of a misunderstanding between criminals, and he's now in the middle of it, and all the criminals and corrupt police and everyone around the place is trying to get him and hurt him, and he has to escape or manage a way to get rid of those criminals that are threatening him. The beginning of this movie is really effective. It starts with an establishing shot of the Twin Towers, the World Trade Center of New York during the night, which works really well because it establishes time and place. It's not exactly, but you can figure out where you are and when you are. And then the movie let us know that it is 1998, I think, if I remember correctly. But it establishes that, and also then the camera goes down and shows us and we get a shot of a wall in the subway that through a mosaic in the wall it says "Caught Stealing," the title of the movie, and then the train, a subway passes in front of it, and it transforms to another wall where it says Darren Aronofsky's film, and it keeps on passing subways, and the wall keeps changing to other walls that have different credits of the movie, and it works great because it establishes the playful and unconventional way that the movie is going to be taking its cinematic language. It's not going to be like other movies where the title is just overposed. Here the title is part of New York City, which is an integral part of this movie, because it's a film that cannot be it is a story that belongs and cannot be told in another city than New York in that specific time. And also the last one of these walls of the subway ends up in a hole in the shape of a pentagon, and it looks like the most simple way to draw a house, and it transforms. It does a match cut where it cuts directly to a shot of the baseball base, the one that is at home, with the exact same figure in the exact same place, and then the camera goes up and we see that it is a play. I don't know the position, but they say that it is safe, that he reached home, and that then the camera goes up and flies away, and then it all starts and we go directly to the main characters living. And this is such an amazing way to start the movie. We set when and where, we get to the tone, we get to the aesthetics, the type of movie that we are going to see, and then this figure of the Pentagon, it is in home in the baseball, and it's like the most evident way to represent home, and it is a movie about a character going safe home and finding its way home, which is what happens to the first person who gets in the home safe at the beginning of the movie. And it works amazingly because we have this match cut that we pass, or we go from one scene in the night to one in the day in a very smooth and transitional way, and at the same time we get it just works really well in that regard, and you get to see this all of this in just like 2 minutes. It is really effective, and you get the tone, the message, the theme of the movie of returning home, the recurring aspects like baseball and the subway and New York, all in 2 minutes. And then we can start now just with the characters, because all the hard work of world building, of where we are, of what's the tone of this movie, everything was just established without a single need of a character, and it works really amazing. It's very cinematic. It takes advantage of the fact that a movie can cut that one image after the other, transmit certain meaning, even psychologically and without you noticing, and that's what makes it such an amazing beginning of a movie. It worth being more studied, actually. The image, it is also very accordingly to the tone. It was shot on digital film, but it has this. It gives this sensation of having grain and darkness and a trashy feeling, where like the movie tries to replicate what it's like being shot on film, on actual film, where the colors were not so bright, and where when you don't have enough light, the grain, the silver in the film strips doesn't burn that well, and so it ends up being this sort of weird smudge there, and it tries to replicate it. It still, of course, look very very superior to in a definitive and colorful and impactful way than most movies shot on film, but on actual film, I mean. But it does tries to replicate it and gets you this more aesthetic, more trying to be dark and gritty, and an analogist as a way to represent the punk rock mentality, everything that appears to be off of the characters, or that it is not a conventional film nowadays that wants to look almost every time really pretty and likes to have dark colors because they think that bright colors are what is killing the movies nowadays, but bright colors is for kids movies only, and it forgets that. But here, this decision to have it all dark and gritty feels more like a decision to match the aesthetic, the tone, and the type of raw story that we are watching, instead of a family-friendly thing. Also, in the image, the director, Aronofsky, he's from New York, and he clearly knows how to film New York. There are some scenes of the camera going through buildings, in between buildings, or literally going through monuments, and it makes the camera feel like it is part of New York itself, but also it manages to pose this brick-built city with the stairs outside as this metropolitan city, big and enormous, this utopian city of the future, and at the same time the camera also goes back to other ground level or character level shots, where you see the characters, drunk people, small spaces, everything failing, not proper utilities, vomit and homeless people living in the streets on over trash bags that the trash that had not been picked up from by who are supposed to pick them up, and it is this clear and intense contrast which makes it something worth watching, that it is so effective because you get to compare this awful situation of the the lower people with this higher situation, and this difference is just what makes this movie shine. And you can notice that it is shot by someone who understands and really has a deep understanding of how New York works as a city. Also, on regarding the sound, it is pretty loud. There's a lot of screaming. There is a punk rock music. It is what you will expect, and it works great. Regarding the montage and editing, it is a very surgical editing. Every shot just stays there the time it needs to stay, and when a shot breathes, you can feel it's because the director wanted it to breathe. It doesn't feel like a shot is cut because the movie was too long, or that a shot was left there because it was too short, everything, or because there was no enough material. It feels like the director knew exactly what he wanted. He filmed exactly what he wanted, and in the end, film it is exactly what he wanted. And this makes it feel such a precise and direct way of telling the story. There's no filler. Everything is meat, and everything has high protein, and everything has its purpose of being there. And also the use of match cuts is a really frequent thing, not only on this when the hole in the subway transforms into the home baseball base, which has some very interesting and clear thematic and subject importance, but also it becomes this there's this other one, which is that the way that the main character loses his friend when he was little is exactly the same way that the movie shows him his girlfriend's body or corpse. And so it is a really in your face but effective way of letting you know that this is also his fault, that this is his back coming back at him, that he's him having to face his own demons and his own past. And it's just a really smart way to do it and transmit all of this to you subconsciously without having someone to spell it out for you. And really here the only things on the editing that I believe that is not that much punk rock. Like, it is all very like how you expect a movie to be cut. It doesn't have like something put in the middle of the shot like in Fight Club and Image or in The Exorcist. It all wants to be very clear and smooth, and it works. Actually, what I think that the montage does that does not happen usually is that usually the editing is in favor of the camera on how it was shot and how it was the genre tropes and style. And here it's the opposite. Here it's on the characters. Here the shots are left to breathe, while the characters are the one who are moving and giving that dynamism to the scene. And this makes it feel like a more character-driven and centric movie than any other kind of movie where the center of it is the plot or the way that a movie works. Also, the drama and the characters. It is a movie about a main character and the other ones are just kind of supporting his journey. He has this journey of him having killed himself, him having killed a friend and being unable to play baseball and having to learn to deal with it, accept it, and have to confront it instead of running and ignoring the fact. And this works. And he does this through this experience and these relationships he forges with all the other characters, which are which even when they don't have that much development or background, they work because each one of them has this sort of gimmick, this sort of identity. For example, the neighborhood which he lives, Matt Smith, it's this punk guy who is in the drug world, but he has a little cat and he cares a lot of his little cat. And also there's this one of the villains, Bad Bunny, who actually makes a really good part here. It has like this some sort of Tarantinesquian monologue about his gun, and the corrupt police is like teasing the main character all the time. The Jewish, there's this, I don't remember if it was Ukrainian or what it was, but it is a joke across the movie that they don't know exactly from where he came, but it's this guy this dog who likes to attack and run in 4 legs, or like in 2 legs and his arms, and it's just kind of so animalistic and has this scar in his face also. And Vincent D'Onofrio's character is such a funny Jewish guy, which has this... It's this fun Jewish guy who likes joking, and it's like really aggressive and kills and goes and enters without any remorse and kills everyone in a club. But at the same time, it's super respectful with his mother, and he doesn't drive on Shabbat because he's afraid of going to hell. And it's such a... Every character is so unique, and this makes that the dynamic of every character with the protagonist feels different, brings something different to the table, and through all of these relationships manages to get to this character arc where he needs to accept what he did and look a way to do it in a better and to cope with it. And so in this regard, everything is everything has a purpose. There's nothing that feels just like something gratuitous or superfluous. And at the end, the character arc of Austin Butler is amazing. He's this guy who is afraid of killing others because he already killed one when he was a young man, and he has to face his demons. And the way the movie does it and represents is that the way we see the crash he caused when he was young is through a post in where the car hits and the passenger flies towards you, and it is a pretty impactful image. And then this image is replicated, but when he does this same thing, but he crashes the van that he's driving against a pillar in New York City, but now in purpose to kill the passengers he's in with. And so it is shot in the exact same way. So it is a very on your face, but a really clear way of indicating you that he's now doing the same thing that he did that hurt him, but now he's employing it to his advantage and using it in a mentally for him healthier way, to say it to kind of explain it, I guess. And also this relates really well to the plot and the way that the story is narrated, because every character, everything that appears, every MacGuffin, everything that they look, this is what a MacGuffin means, everything that they look, everything that they need, every detail, it comes back and it has a purpose, and it has something to do. For example, the girlfriend smokes and uses this lighter with the shape of a gun, and the way that he figures out who was the one who killed his girlfriend is because this person is carrying that same lighter without noticing. And so it is this very smart way of us and the character figuring out what happened without we needing to be told about it. It is just so as a very smart way on how to do it and how to create this sort of scenes and memorable things, as well as it feels like everything closes, everything ties together, everything that you see has a purpose, and it is really satisfactory when you see something that it's not there just to keep moving forward, but because it is an indispensable part of this story of this movie. And also during the time the story, every scene has some sort of conflict. Sometimes they have to fight, other times they need to disguise their intentions, and other times they have to just convince other one of something. And this sort of dynamic makes it that every scene has something for you to root for or root against, and you are invested, and you don't need to be having some sort of inconsistent or this feeling that there is that what you are seeing doesn't add to something, because even when the movie keeps changing its objective, or now we need to find this, or now we need to get away from him, or now we need this, or now we need that, we keep the movie is always focused on getting out of this situation. So even when the specific change, the main objective is always really clear, and you can keep following this story. Also, regarding other aspects with other works of art, I believe that it is very important the connection this movie makes with the punk rock movement in music and aesthetics, and you can see it since the poster. And it is really important because this manages to bring you back to a specific ideology, to a specific way of approaching life, and an alternative way, and an idea of fighting the authorities and the traditions. And it is ties to very well to the main character, which in a normal situation maybe you will just want to get out of this situation, but here he wants to fight it, he wants to get revenge, and he wants to win it, even when it is something that feels really hard to manage and to pull off. So in that regard, it is important, the aesthetics here, because it brings us back to this ideology, which is that at the end the movie is saying that to us that this punk violence, trauma are things that yes, they can lead to destruction, to doom, to sadness, and to many of those things, but also are ways that we can use to overcome them and find a way and a place for us, and find us a new home through them. And that is a message that it is not usually seen, and also it is really important, this punk aesthetics, because it is the movie telling you that it is not going to follow the parameters or the conventionalities of how a movie is done today, but that it is going to break them and fuck tradition of the classic canons of film, and it's going to do its own thing. And it also helps bring and make you understand why the movie makes some of the less conventional decisions it makes. And all of this is tied up really great at the ending, where the character decides to take care of the cat, goes to Mexico to start a new life in a new home, and stops drinking and decides to stop watching baseball. And this is an amazing ending. It is maybe a little on your face, but it works so well. Firstly, because he accepts to take care of someone other than himself. He stops being selfish to take care of this cat that was the cat of his neighbor. Also, he accepts his mistakes, and that he cannot go back to his home with his mother, or he can't go back to live in New York because he killed someone, multiple people actually, but that he has to lay down and start a new life in Mexico, where there's Tenochtitlan a bartender. Don't ask me why, but he's now there, and he has this new life to start over. Also, during the movie, he was kicked by one of the criminals, and he had a kidney surgery, so he cannot drink alcohol anymore. But through the movie, we see him keep drinking alcohol and making these auto-destructive decisions. And here he asked the bartender to not give him something alcohol, just ask for some water, and that makes it feel like he overcome these auto-destructive ways. And also, he was stuck in the past. All the time he was talking about baseball and about everything everything turned about baseball, about he wanting, he was going to be a baseball player, and everything was, his whole world was baseball. And now that it's in Mexico, the only channel on the TV is a baseball game, and he turns it off because he's not going to keep watching baseball. He's now going to live his new life, which at the moment is just being in this beach in Mexico. So it is obvious, but everything and every aspect of this character gets tied in an amazing way in just this final scene. And yes, it is on your face that he doesn't want to drink alcohol, that he stops watching baseball, and that he takes care of the cat. And yes, it is on your face, it is cheesy, but it works so well, and it is so satisfactory to see that everything come together. And even through this hell of a ride, he managed to get out good and a better person, and to overcome his flaws. And also another thing about that I really enjoyed, and I think should be studied, is the credits. The credits, when they roll, they are different colors, and they are at the rhythm of punk music, and they constantly shake. Some of the letters fell off, and the letters kind of shake and get out of place, and then get back together. But now, instead of rolling from down to up like in a normal movie, they start rolling up to down, and then from one side to the other. And the movie is sort of the time shifting, and the sometimes it goes in diagonal. Like the credits are this. Even on the credits, the movie is unconventional. It's breaking what you expect. It's just fun to watch, and even with the letters moving into the way the music does, it reminds me of, I don't remember the name, but sorry, but there was this very interesting guy who thought that the most purest way of doing animation was to take it to the abstract world, in the same way that Kandinsky thought about painting. And what this guy did was doing these animations that were following the rhythm of music, and were just shapes of different colors moving at the rhythm of the music. And the credits here felt like that, but also with a formal purpose, which is or with a pragmatical purpose, which is to credit the people who work in this film, which is something very important. And the movie managed to make this transactional part of the movies, to transform it to an aesthetical experience on itself. And so it is really magnificent how even through the credits, which most of the movies just ignore or left behind, the movie still manages to tell things, give you the tone, give you the genre, give you the aesthetic, and give you an aesthetic experience on itself, which is something that it's just so amazing. That yes, my movie is not 135 minutes long with 5 minutes of credit. It is a whole aesthetic experience of 140 minutes of film and aesthetic thing to chew on. And at the end, in conclusion, I will say that it is an aesthetically unique and appealing movie. The violence in it is not just for violence sake, but it is just the frosting of this story, of this human story about trauma, humanity, and overcoming your flaws. Also, it takes advantages of the movie is really smart in the way that it takes advantages of the strengths of its director, which is Aronofsky, who is New Yorker, knows how to film New York, and at the same time it's focused on and has built a career focusing on the psychological aspect of his characters. And so here it manages to shine, and even in an action-packed film full of external conflict, where the character has to travel all through the city, the focus never leaves the psychology of the character. And at the end, it is a fun, entertaining, and climatic and human experience to experience at the movie. And it is something that most movies today that feel more like an AI and written and with no emotional impact, this one actually is. And it is such a movie that I cannot avoid recommend. Also, if you like this video, please, and you want to support me, please check out the please check out my short story, Give Me a Hand. It is about a man who has the ability to attach the limbs to his body and use them as its own, but this caused him a war. This caused him to get intertwined in an occult war where his relationship and his identity are put at risk. And so it's a short story. It won the contest of the Gold Short Story contest of Nueva Bestia Editorial. And so if this sounds like something you might like, please consider checking it on Amazon. It is also in Spanish. And if you like, you can also help me by subscribing to my email newsletter, where you can find it for free. And thank you, and until next, I hope you keep enjoying the movies.